Hello, welcome to GeoBytes, your daily roundup of news from geospatial industry. I'm your host Bhanu. For the next 15 minutes, I will bring you the news of the top developments across projects, products, policies, and business. Google Earth has celebrated its 10th birthday, and to commemorate the event, it has introduced a new feature called the Voyager. Voyager is a new layer for Earth that lets you visually explore the world through new and interesting images. It is only available for Google Earth desktop users right now, but then the images are so breathtaking you will enjoy seeing them on a big screen. The first edition of Voyager will give users 5 sections to explore, namely the Street View, Earth View, 3D Cities, Satellite Imagery, and the Highlight. These would showcase highlights from Street View, including the Grand Canyon, show striking landscapes as seen from space, give users a glimpse of cities in photorealistic 3D, and so on. In August 2005, when Google Earth was in its evolutionary stages, Hurricane Katrina showed how useful mapping tools could be for crisis response efforts. Rescue workers compared before and after satellite imagery in Google Earth to better locate where people were stranded. Since then, Google Earth has been downloaded by more than 2 billion people in nearly every country in the world. Google Maps took to Twitter yesterday to wish Google Earth. It said, "Happy 10th birthday, Google Earth. You don't look a day over 4.54 billion. Google employee Andrew Kimsey was part of Google Earth's launch process. He called in a post on Google+ how farmers in India used historical imagery to receive compensation for their land when a new highway was being built. The government claimed that the land was not under cultivation when the highway was planned, but Earth's historical image showed otherwise." Amazon Web Services Public Sector Symposium recently concluded in Washington, D.C. Michael Donnelly, geospatial data architect at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, revealed that the DHS has found a solution for emergency big data and cloud processing. The agency is using an imagery hosting web service called Terrapixel to upload, manage, store, and deliver unlimited amounts of data to first responders. The service allows them to see imagery from the past 24 hours. Donnelly said it was essential that the folks on the ground managing situations had the same information that the headquarters possessed. Since Terrapixel transfers data with GIS-based information, responders can see the incidents happening nearest to them when they access the platform. Success with Terrapixel has also cemented the department's commitment to investing in cloud technology, Donnelly affirms. Many of you would have seen that satellite maps depicting wildfires in Alaska have been making the rounds on Facebook and Twitter lately. There are over 300 fires in Alaska currently in various stages, some active, some smoldering, and some in the process of being demobilized. And these maps have put them into perspective. Packed with information like the name of the fire, when it was discovered, and how many acres it covers, the maps update every hour from the latest available data from the NASA's Terra and Aqua satellites and the NPP Suomi spacecraft from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration NOAA. This real-time information is absolutely vital for firefighters and other first responders so that they can manage the fires, monitor air quality, and inform those who live in the affected areas. Moving forward, agriculture equipment company Case IH has launched its new precision Air 5 series air carts. The air cart, which boasts of accurate seed and fertilizer placement, uses AccuSection section control technology to help producers do more work in less time. The technology uses individual electronic meter drives to provide primary run control on a per meter basis. The cart is developed to work with the Case IH Advanced Farming Systems Pro 700 Control Center. This enables simple and easy monitoring and operation of meters, section control technology applications, bin level, and other air cart sensors. Canada-based clean tech company Blumetric Environmental has been awarded a 5-year engineering services contract by mining company Vale Canada. The $2.6 million contract would see Blumetric undertake tasks like drilling, monitoring, pumping of wells, and groundwater sampling. It would then incorporate the data collected into a GIS-based environmental information system. We will now slip into a short break, but when we return, we will take a look at other regions of the world.
Once again, Trimble is leading the way in positioning technology with the new Trimble R8S GNSS receiver. An entirely new way to look at receiver possibilities. Simply choose the configuration and features you require today. Then, add features as you need them tomorrow. It's the ultimate in scalability. With this innovative receiver, you tailor your system to your job, to the way you work. Choose the level of configuration that suits your needs. As your requirements change, the Trimble R8S can adapt. You simply add functionality whenever you want it. Each Trimble R8S comes standard with integrated Maxwell 6 chips, Trimble 360 tracking technology, and more. All to keep you productive and expand the reach of your GNSS system. Plus, it offers our exclusive web UI for remote monitoring and the new Trimble DL Android app for GNSS data logging. And the Trimble R8S maximizes productivity by easily integrating with the Trimble S-Series total stations and our innovative V10 imaging rover. For ultimate field efficiency, combine the Trimble R8S receiver with a Trimble controller and the intuitive Trimble Access Field software. Trust Trimble Business Center to help you edit, process, and adjust your data. It's the kind of solution you have come to expect from Trimble. We've been setting the standard in positioning technology for more than 30 years. See how we're raising the bar again with the Trimble R8S GNSS receiver.
Welcome back. European Union's Copernicus Environmental Monitoring Program's first optical Earth observation satellite, Sentinel-2A, has started beaming images back to the Earth. The satellite's first acquisition began in Sweden and made a strip-like observation through Central Europe and the Mediterranean, ending in Algeria. What you're seeing now is the first image delivered by the satellite. This is northwest Italy and southern France. The data were relayed in real time to Italy's Matera ground station. Italy's typical sunny weather also allowed scientists to get their first glimpse of the multispectral instrument's capabilities over the French Riviera. With a ground resolution of 10 meters per pixel, the images showed individual buildings in Milan, agriculture plots along the Po River, and ports along the southern French coast. Right now on your screen is a close-up of an area in the Po Valley. Beautiful, isn't it? Moving on, India's state-controlled coal mining company, Coal India, is contemplating a new land monitoring system. The company wants to automate the maintenance of satellite and cadastral data on land parcels and tracking of land acquisition. The company's consulting arm, the Central Mine Planning and Design Institute, is currently selecting firms to develop a web-based cadastral level and acquisition monitoring system. The proposed system will compile the information into a comprehensive geodatabase of parcels. It would include attributes such as area, land type, and ownership. Senior officials say that a satellite-based system would help them to see exactly what they are acquiring today and what they would be getting tomorrow. UK-based LFM software has come with a technology that would provide intelligent laser scan data to the fingertips of engineering, construction, design, and operational teams in a single dataset. The laser scanning software solutions provider has introduced 3D markup functionality to its laser scan technology portfolio. LFM NetView and LFM Server will now allow users to add, access, and share asset intelligence in the form of tag identifiers, attributes, comments, and links. Moreover, the new capabilities provide secure, on-demand access to laser scan data via company networks or the internet. Tablet enablement and the facility to take data offline allow remote use for inspection tasks and on-site reviews. As the 15th Pacific Games open in Papua New Guinea this weekend, Airbus Defence and Space and CIPAC have produced a map of the sports facilities. The map has been produced by using imagery from Earth observation satellites Pleiades 1A and Pleiades 1B. The map shows that the capital city of Port Moresby has invested heavily in refurbishing, building, and developing its facilities. The map produced shows the locations of the sports sites, tourist attractions, and hotels. In another development from the region, the board of the Spatial Industries Business Association (SIBA) has launched its Pacific Islands chapter. The development is a result of a November 2014 meeting where SIBA General Manager Kelly Ireland met with Michael Peterson, Director of Secretariat of the Pacific Community, to discuss the feasibility of a Pacific Islands chapter. SIBA will help member organizations from the 22 islands in making submissions to government, providing business opportunities through tender alerts, networking events, specific business tools, and direct business support. That's all we have for you in GeoBytes today. Find us on www.geobiz.com and follow GeoBuiz on Twitter. See you soon with GeoBuiz Exclusive. Hello and welcome to GeoBuiz Live. Today we have a special guest with us, Joe Jackson from Thomson Reuters. Welcome, Joe. Thanks for joining us on this show. Can you just
Thanks for having me.
Introduce yourself for our audience, please?
I'm Managing Director for Thomson Reuters Tax and Accounting Government Business Segment.
To start with the interview, I would like to ask you, the UN Habitat estimates that about 70% of all the developing countries, the land in these countries is not documented. Do you see the need? What is the need to be the land to be documented, and how does the urgency for the governments to document the land?
Sure, I think it's an extremely urgent matter, and if we think about land, I mean, land is a key core to prosperity, and it's for a society, and governments want to be good stewards of lands, and therefore, if they are, they can help make land be a prosperous component of their economies. And even for an individual, it's important, right? So land can be the foundation for their own value and their purpose, and even for the rights for an individual to get property and work on the property, or just to pass that property along to their families. It's very important. And I think it was, Adam Smith, the Scottish economist, in his work, The Wealth of Nations, he commented that there's three aspects to productivity, and it's labor, capital, and land. So if 70% of land in developing economies is untapped or unregistered, or there's not a good measure against it, it's a piece of that economic factor of productivity that just will be stagnant. And it's government's responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen. In
the context of the increasingly globalized world, how do you see this to be a very urgent need for governments?
Well, it's just it's constantly an issue, and I think that unless they take a forceful effort to deal with it, it's one of those things that's not going to work itself out. And so governments need to take action to deal with the aspects of their modernization of their land and projects around that, and find partners, I think, that can make that a reality.
How do you see this as an opportunity for the private industry?
Well, I think for private industry, it's a great opportunity because for us at Thomson Reuters, we have a core solution. Our Momentum product is specifically for the purpose of helping governments to modernize their process that allows to deal with registry and valuation of properties and revenue generation from properties and all that's associated with it and all the integrated aspects of that. So governments need to find partners that can help them deal with this issue.
Okay, great. As you have said, it is a great need in the current scenario that governments really work to create, add value to the economy, and that requires a lot of transparency and increased productivity in terms of the land and the land administration systems. So how is Thomson Reuters enabling the governments in this aspect through its solutions?
Well, I think we do a very good job of that, and that's the core of what our product is about, and it provides transparency. So if you're going to untap that productive aspect of land, it's imperative to have a system that can make sure that it's a fair and equitable, transparent solution around that. And especially if we talked about an individual, if an individual is going to be able to leverage their land and to go get a mortgage, they need to have the assurances that they can do that. If a private firm is going to invest with a plant or properties in an area, they want to make sure and have assurances of the land rights and ownership. And even if it could entail itself in the rights of people on the land. So there could be government-private partnerships that are enabling lease arrangements for extractives, like a timber agreement. And if that occurs, the government should make sure that the people around that society, their rights aren't being trampled on by that arrangement. So transparency around all of this, I think, helps this all be pushed forward in a positive light.
Talking specifically about Thomson Reuters product, I see that Momentum is simplifying the revenue management life cycle for the governance. Would you like to share a bit more about this particular?
Yeah, it's really at its core. It's about land registry, the rights, valuation and revenue generation around the land and the resources on the land. And it also is a big part, it's technological aspect, that's the core. But we also bring expertise, consultants, and expertise and continuing support for a product like that. And it really goes towards modernization projects that many governments around developing economies around the globe are taking on right now.
As we were just discussing, about 80% of land in the developing world is still do not have, or rather they are continuing with the informal registrations. So when moving to the developing world, how is Thomson Reuters enabling the governments in that particular scenarios where there are no processes set up to do the formal registrations?
Yes, I mean it's a pretty amazing statistic, right? 80%,
Yes.
and I've heard the same thing. And whether it's interesting, it's hard to say whether it's what's the cause of that? Is it lack of political will? Is it corruption? Is it just legacy bulk systems that are hard to get off of? Regardless of why it is that way, I think as we've said, it's imperative for governments to take this initiative to change. And if they're really going to make a change in how we in private industry, especially Thomson Reuters, can make a difference on that number, I think it comes down to one key aspect of it is around sustainability. And if I think about sustainability, I think of it in two main ways. First of all, sustainability about the ability of a government to have a process in place where they can accurately and correctly have registry around their land, assess that land, and then drive the revenues from it. And these revenues are critical because if they're going to prop up their citizenry and the population as a result of that land, they need to derive revenues. And the financing that can be derived on a regular basis from those revenues can help push the society forward. So if they're going to do this and they can empower people to better their careers, help with education, maybe accreditation for their ability to put themselves in a better position to succeed. A society needs that, and the government needs to support that regular generation of revenues. That's the first level of sustainability. The second level is the technology and the capability behind that to make that a reality, and that's where we come in. So with our working with governments and their modernization projects, we can give them a solution that meets the need to continually put transparency and process around that revenue generation and the assessment and dealing with lands and the transactions around lands. And by doing that, it gives them a sustainable system for time. If we look at the U.S. is a great example of looking at sustainability in these systems. We've been working for over 40 years, thousands of jurisdictions around the U.S. on dealing with eliminating legacy mainframe systems, right?
True.
These green screens, if you will. And these were systems that were developed at a point in time, 30, 40 plus years ago. They fit the purpose, but they weren't sustainable for long term. So that's why they're getting off of these systems. They're costly. They could cost, in some jurisdictions, over $1 million a year just to keep them running. It's hard to find people that can maintain and manage and modify these systems. And so that's a big part of sustainability too. So these modernization projects and taking a system like Aumentum that we have, it gives more a sustainable long-term outlook towards the solutions that can really advance and hopefully make a difference on this 80% number that it really is impactful.
You have actually, Thomson Reuters has worked in several developing countries. Would you like to cite an example of a success story?
One thing that I do think about is we have a lot of different projects, but a lot of projects in Africa. One place where it's a really great success story is in Nigeria. And we developed or implemented the Aumentum system a couple years ago in Cross River State. And that was a great project along with the modernization project with that state, Nigeria. It was a good implementation. It took about 3 years though. So I think the interesting part of this story though is that was a success, but it was a sustainable and also scalable system. We were able to take that system and then Plateau State, Nigeria, after that did an implementation with basically the same system, and that implementation took 9 months. So that's a great example of where you take a system that, like Aumentum, you go into a new market like Nigeria, in the states within Nigeria, the primary work is relevant not only for that state, but all the states that have the same legislative requirements and policy. And so by then being able to put that in place in another state and then future states hopefully as well, it really shows what can help make a difference for governments when they take that approach.
Okay, great, wonderful. I also see that governments require, when they start building their land administration systems, they require complete solutions as well. So how Thomson Reuters is enabling governments to provide that complete solution, end-to-end solutions? Where does Thomson Reuters fit in the complete workflow of a government land administration?
You know, I think when we look at that, I think what in the private sector and the government sector, really integration becomes a key aspect now, right? So
yes.
Many people have very disparate systems that
Exactly.
they're functional in certain areas and they have to take data and push it to another system or manually put data in. And so what Aumentum is really about is the integration of the entire process. So whether it's the mapping or the land registry, cadastral, it could be the valuation, property tax aspects, Aumentum brings all that together in an integrated approach. So by taking that type of a solution, there are many benefits for that integration, and they could be in just from the data aspect. You don't have to move data around from one system to another, and there's potential loss of data when you're doing that. There's ease of use on the system side because there's one interface that all these different users who were using different systems, they're more adept at it. They're more easily trained on the system to be able to benefit from the system. And the community that's being served by the system, they're better served too because they're maybe not having to go to one service person or another office or something by dealing with this one integrated system. So Aumentum, by bringing all these aspects together, really makes a difference, and we feel it makes a difference, and it really is key to the approach of how we're approaching the market.
Many of the land administration projects are typically large, investment intensive, technology intensive, and also time intensive. So is there any effort from Thomson Reuters to make it more simple, fit for purpose, and also cost effective for the government, especially for the developing world?
Absolutely, and I think fit for purpose is an important concept, and especially as it relates to the lessening accuracy standards around registry and registration aspects, and I think what we're bringing to the marketplace is a fit for purpose. It's a scalable product that really can meet the needs of the jurisdictions that we're dealing with. And if we think about that scale can mean many different things. These green screen systems that I talked about, and retiring these systems and getting with newer technology. I mean, to be able to engage with the citizenry and get the benefits from the citizenry that they're expecting from the government, it's important. But 40 years ago when these mainframe systems were being developed, I don't think anyone could have ever imagined that we today are going to be walking around with a computer in our pocket that we can make and receive phone calls on. We can engage with people, through email, digital correspondence. We can research anything in the world, information, just from this device in our pocket. We have live GPS mapping that's in our hand that can direct us from one place to the next. And these systems that were developed, there's no way they can tie into this. And so if you take the approach that you have a scalable system that technologically can scale and take advantage of those type things, that's an important aspect when you look at these modernization projects, and we think that's important. The other aspect I think about that we can bring to bear on this, and I think it applies, is around security too. So not only do you need a sustainable, scalable system, you need a secure system. I mean, every day in the news we see about hacks and cyber security and cyber attacks. Governments and private industry alike are putting millions and hundreds of millions and billions of dollars into defending themselves against these attacks. So the older technology, it takes more money, it takes more time, and they're not as secure. So being on up-to-date technology is critical to be able to help defend and make a more secure system. So if you think about sustainability and scalability and security, those are key elements. It's what the industry now is talking about, the 3 S's. And I think it's very relevant. And any modernization project that anyone's taking on, any government institution or any lending or doning institution that's taken on these projects. I think those the 3S aspect and making sure that that's a big part of the conversation is important to make sure that this fit for purpose concept, succeeds in the future.
So I hope that is also a cost-effective solution.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. My always concern has been that land is a very emotional subject, and I really feel that aspect is something that really need, and this technology can really help countries across the world.
Sure.
But it requires multiple stakeholder participation, and there is always seems to be a disconnect, kind of a thing between the government, between the private,
Sure.
and between the donating organizations. So what is the evolving business models that you see in private-public participation so that the success of the land administration system is really ensured?
Yeah, great question. And I would say it's a very dynamic reality, right? And I would say there's not any one model. And I think the key for success is to really come into and create a conversation around really the needs and what's trying to be accomplished, what's the current situation, what's the problem trying to be solved, but really look into the future to make sure that a solution is being put in place around a modernization project that really is going to work for the long term as well. And honestly, I guess I would say, and it may sound a little self-serving, but I think the industry needs to take a little bit more of a out-of-the-box mentality on these things. I mean, sometimes we deal with proposals that have literally thousands of pages of requirements, and it's just complex, and it's a monstrosity. And sometimes when dealing with these massive requirements, you can lose the focus of what the core issues, the problem is trying to be fixed. And I think by what we're trying to do with Thomson Reuters is get engaged in the conversation earlier and look for new models of partnering with donor and lending institutions and government agencies to say, hey, let's be a part of the overall design of this solution so we can make sure it's going to be applicable, and we can take our best practices and the learnings we've had by what we've been doing for the past 40 years in the US and other developing economies, and we can make sure that there is a good fit. And I think by always pushing and challenging the conversation to make sure we're doing that, we can get better solutions. If we do that, I think working together and being really part of the conversation early on, I think we can find a way to bring together and have a financially stable and a technologically stable system that really serves the immediate need, but really is going to be a long-term solution. And that's where we'll see more successes in the industry, I think.
Okay, great. I'm sure I agree with you when you say the communication aspect is very, very key, and also to have a dialogue and evolve as you go for that
Sure.
particular country. Thank you so much for joining us on this show. Thank you.